Okay. Hey, welcome everybody. Welcome to this great LinkedIn Live. I'm so excited about today. Today's topic that we're going to have in this LinkedIn Live is generative AI and the people experience. So, with technology evolving at such a fast pace with ChatGPT, BART, all these other generative AI tools, it's definitely had an impact on the people experience. So, really excited for this conversation today. For some housekeeping items, this is going to be a panel conversation and we'll talk between 20 to 25 minutes and we'll hopefully save some time at the end to help answer questions. If you do have any questions, there's a chat function or a comment section off to the right. If you just want to go ahead and drop in your question or your response in there, we'll be able to look at it. So that's kind of going to be the format, and I'm super excited. Let's jump right into the introductions. So I'll start with myself. My name is Chris Ortega. I'm the CEO of Fresh FP&A, and we help businesses transform and scale their finance organizations by providing fractional CFO and advisory services. So that's me, and I'll pass it over to Vin for the introductions.
Hey, I'm Vin Vishishta, the author of From Data to Profit. I'm also the CEO of V Squared. It's one of the smallest and oldest data science consulting companies out there. Been helping companies figure out how to monetize data, monetize analytics, machine learning, instead of just throwing the technology out there, really making the potential real.
Hey everybody, I'm Kate Strachnyi. I'm the founder of Datacated, and Datacated is essentially a media company that's focused on helping data, AI, and analytics companies reach their audience on social media through content creation, content amplification, and brand awareness.
Hello, everybody. Good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are in the world. My name is Enrique Rubio, founder of Hacking HR, a global learning community of HR people and leaders coming together to talk about all the cool things happening in the space of HR. Thank you, Chris, for inviting us to this conversation.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I feel like such an honor, and I feel like I'm with a team of movie stars right now. And there's no better people that I can think talk about this topic around generative AI and the people experience in this team right here. So, you know what? I'm excited. I know everybody else looking at this live is excited. So let's jump right into it. So my first question is, and we'll start this off with Vin. We'll start with you, Kate, and then Enrique. We'll go with you. What ways do you think generative AI has changed the employee experience?
Well, I think we underestimate the power of a generative AI interface. We think about it in terms of ChatGPT, but with the interface, what you're doing to employees who have previously had to go to five different systems, three different systems, four or five different places, hopping around. Now you have a single experience and a single point of contact for everything that is HR. And that the generative AI interface is really enabling orchestration to happen under the covers. So all of these complex workflows that used to take a long time and really some training to accomplish, they're more accessible. It takes less effort to complete these. And there's no more, the joke is I uploaded my resume and then I had to re-enter all my information from the resume. That's kind of the old joke. That's going to go away. We're going to have a lot more powerful single points of contact. And that's huge, especially if you can partner with, instead of having to build these things yourself. That's another component that's critical, is these are now more accessible because you don't have to build all these foundational models yourself.
Totally. Kate, what are your thoughts, Kate?
Well, I love that point, Vin, especially the resume thing. I remember back in the day, I had to do that quite often. It was like I would actually give up on an application because I'm like, okay, if you can't do this, guys, maybe I don't need to work for you. So I think, one way that Gen AI is going to impact the employee experience, hopefully as soon as possible, is through personalized training programs that are tailored to the individual. I've already seen some of this come out even before Gen AI, but I think Gen AI is just going to make it way better. So if you think to your corporate days, or if you're still there and you had to take those mandatory trainings, you were either lost, you're either bored, it's over your head, it's under your head. Like it was never tailored specifically to you. And then a lot of times we dread those moments. And I think with Gen AI's ability to monitor your strengths, your weaknesses, your preferred learning style, we could just make progress in terms of making those personalized, tailored training programs for employees.
Very nice. Very nice.
Yeah. By the way, Kate, that's one of the areas in which I am the most excited about with AI, all things learning. In fact, I'm using it right now in Hacking HR when we design learning events and learning programs. It used to take me hours to craft, a program, and now with ChatGPT, which is is the front of it, but with ChatGPT, I am reducing about 50-60% of the time that I was investing before in crafting these learning experiences. But the other area, which is more tactical, at least for HR, where it's already happening, Gen AI is already delivering value, is in all things that generally are done by humans in a call center or by somebody in HR. All these things can be done now with generative AI, a much more powerful chatbot, if you will, where you are asking questions pertaining to your company, but also beyond the realms of your company. And you don't need somebody necessarily in tier one, tier two behind the screen in HR to be responding to these questions. There are companies already reporting on how many hours a year per person they are saving by implementing something like this, right? So you get a couple of benefits in there. Number one, people get their answers real time, like on the spot, whenever they ask a question. And number two, HR is removing this from their plates, which is a very transactional thing where you have to respond to all of these questions manually, from a human behind. So that's already happening, and I'm hoping it gets much better as we continue, like Vince said before, developing these interfaces for generative AI.
Nice, nice. I love that insight, and I love what everybody mentioned, right? Like the training and the development, the ability to, get this access to data on demand. I think looking at the office of the CFO and just looking at employee experience overall, like my insight around it is it's really leveled up like the core competencies that we need to change, right? So, for example, one of the things coming out of finance, I was working with a audit person in audit, and he was a good friend of mine, and he was talking through how he was working through this ASC 606. For everybody that doesn't know in finance, ASC 606 was one of the probably biggest accounting changes that happened to public and private companies. And I was talking him through this, and mind you, this is an audit manager at a big four audit firm. I won't name the firm, but he's telling me about how much he spent his time, energy, effort to kind of carve out this memo to go over through that. And I jumped on a Teams call with him, and we were catching up, and I was like, man, why? Like, let me just open Bart real quick. And I said, hey, Bart, you are an audit manager at a big four accounting firm. Please summarize ASC 606 to give me the key points I need to know and make it easy for a non-finance person to understand, and make it in a format that I can copy it to a PowerPoint presentation and keep the slides less than 7, right? Literally, I copied in that prompt, and we literally go through it. And he's sitting there looking at me. He's like, Chris, I literally spent 6 hours last night carving through the guidance, reading out the points, doing this. So for me, when I think about what generative AI, it's becoming such a great complement to increase our ROI in a lot of the tactical tasks that we were doing, right? And I'm like, hey man, now you have more time to now communicate what this means to the business, to collaborate and bring that clarity. So to me, I think that's that insight where generative AI is really having a tremendous impact on the people experience. So thank you all for sharing that, which kind of leads into my next question, right? So we talked about, some of the changes. What do you think are some of those challenges that generative AI is bringing to people operations? And Kate, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I think that all good things come with some challenges. And I think one of the challenges we might see with Gen AI being implemented in the workforce is some people will be left behind, right? Not everyone's at the same skill level, understanding level. And I think we're going to see sort of a widening of the skills gap. Once companies bring in and start to try adopting any sort of AI or any technology, really, you'll have those groups of individuals that are like, no, I don't know how to do this. This is way above my pay grade. Like, I don't know. And they don't even want to try, which is scary. I've seen this from even a basic tool like data visualization software that we were trying to implement in our old company. And we had folks like, no, I'll use Excel plus PowerPoint, until you actually sit them down and say, look how easy this drag and drop is. You don't have to refresh the data. You just click one button and then they finally get it. But there were so many people that were just like, no, this thing is going to take my job, or this is, I don't know how to use this and I don't want to learn. So yeah, definitely need to take the time to address that actual adoption and bringing people on board as you slowly bring in new technology.
Definitely. Enrique, what do you think are some of those challenges that people are having around generative AI around the people operations?
Yeah, well, as Katie was talking about the Excel, use, I was thinking about, we've gone through phases like this before, right? I mean, from the second industrial revolution to, when, we didn't want to use the steam power to, for textile, manufacturing sector, to just 20 years ago when we transitioned to using computers and emails from typewriters, right? I mean, that was a big shift for a lot of people. The ATM was a big shift for a lot of people. So all of these things are shifts, right? That hopefully, like I do agree with Kate that I think some people will be left behind. I'm hoping that we can, catch them up as quickly as possible. But the one thing I have a little bit of a different answer to this question, and it is this: the challenge to me is for us to think that technology will resolve all of our problems. It never has, and it won't. Generative AI is imperfect. It will continue to be imperfect going forward. It will be in a perfecting curve, into the future, but it will never get to a point where you read something and you realize, wow, this was written by a human, by a poet, by an artist. I think there's a curve to get there, and I am feeling that the hype will get us to a place where we think that generative AI or technology in general will give us the perfect answer for the problems that we have. And that is, to me, a very big challenge right now. I'm hoping that especially organizations that are implementing this real quickly, just because they are riding on that wave of the hype, they know that it's good. They can reduce their manual time by 40, 50%, 25%, whatever it is, but it's not perfect. So the human component has to be there. So it is I was actually talking to students yesterday about this. We were doing some exercises on ChatGPT about cover letters and resumes, and what I told them was, look at this. It's the cover letter that ChatGPT is giving you is very good, but it's not as good as you working with ChatGPT to make it better. It's the two of you, the technology and the human. It's not just the technology. To me, that is the main challenge, right? It is understanding that generative AI is not the panacea. It is a powerful tool, but that's what it is, a tool for now.
Enrique, I love when you said that, and then we'll get to you. I love where you said that human plus AI, like that. It's getting it's getting my math brain going, right? And I'm just like, human plus AI is like the question mark. Like, what is that going to equal in the future, right? Like, how is that going to actually augment? So I love that point. I was sitting here taking that note. Vin, what are your thoughts? What are you seeing are some of those challenges around generative AI in people operations?
So what I'm seeing is a lot of what Kate talked about, and exactly what Enrique said. You two perfectly summarized the challenges. On one side, we have people who are quickly adopting, but then there are people who are left behind because they feel like they're non-technical. And we have to change the way people think about what being technical means. Once we do that, and what generative AI does, kind of getting back to talking about the interface, this is a more natural way to interact with technology. It'll be adopted as soon as people try it out and touch it. That's going to be the big component of adoption. Is it feels like just another technology that is complicated technology, but generative interfaces allow us to interact with technology in new ways. And so that is where, from an employee experience standpoint, training and upskilling, very important, but it's really that first interaction. If you make that first interaction with a non-hype product, it has to be something that works. Because if your first interaction is with something that doesn't work, you're just going to say, okay, all right. Bye. Yeah, exactly. Thanks for nothing. And we have to avoid that. We can't have that first interaction that employees have be with a tool that doesn't really work for them, doesn't integrate into their workflow. So exactly what you were saying, putting people in the middle, that is building a tool around them and redefining what it means to be technical. It is exactly what you said, human plus AI. And not human in the loop, AI in the loop. I mean,
Mhm.
think about AI as the add-on, not as the centerpiece, but people in the middle, and we're going to be so much more successful. And that's really everything about the employee experience. That's what the whole point of it is. And so I see HR playing a really critical role in being part of introducing people to tools that change the way that they work, that make them more productive. But also, you can be a little bit of a gatekeeper and say, look, this isn't going to be the first thing we introduce to people. Why? It doesn't work. It's
Yeah.
not real. It's smoke.
Vin, I think you came up with a new slogan, AI, just touch it. It's like,
Yes.
Ooh, that's fire. I love it. I
Yes.
love it. And it's like a little bot, and it's like a little like pointing to the bot's like pointing to it's like, hey, generative AI, just do it. Just touch it, right? Like I that
Trademark.
yeah.
yeah, that's something right there, right? But like I love this piece of it, right? And I think what I love about this panel and is just the different insights around it, right? And for me, when I think of the biggest challenge, like I see this in the office of the CFO, right? Like I've sat down and it's like a spectrum of like, hey, I'm super scared of it. I don't know what it does. I don't like it's scary to me to people all the way over here where it's like I literally use this every day to respond to emails. So you've got like this wide variety of like skill set, interests, and just overall like fear of it, right? And to me, I think one of the biggest challenges is like people just getting started, right? I
Mm,
remember being at a CFO conference and I was sitting around and we were having a roundtable discussion and we just got off of a conversation where they're talking about it. And I remember sitting down with 4 or 5 CFOs across the US at pretty sizable companies. And they were like, man, I don't know how to use it. And I literally just pulled out my computer and I was like, give me a problem that you were facing, right? And one of them was like, well, I'm working with my accounting team to come up with a bad debt policy that we need to have, right? Soon as she said policy, I was like automatically thinking in my head, I'm like, all right, we're just gonna be writing words. We're just gonna be writing words, customizing the words to fit your business, right? So I started asking her information. I was like, what kind of company you in? She's like, well, I'm a CFO at a retail company. I was like, how big is it? She was like, 50 to 60 million dollars. I was like, what's your customer? So then as I'm asking these questions, I'm already thinking about the prompt that I need to write. So I'm like, hey, you're a CFO at a retail company that's 50 to 70 million dollars. You want to come up with a bad debt policy that you can communicate to your sales organization and make it easy to understand that a non-finance person can understand, right? So we literally copy that up and we're literally carving it out. Now, to Vin, to your point, was it 1,000%? Enrique, to your point, was it like 100% accurate? No, but it
yeah.
gave us 80% to where we can use that conversation to customize it to what her business was, right? And this is like in a lunch session. We're going through this together, and like the other people were just like, we get done with it, and she's like, and I said, hey, make it that I can export this to Word and I can copy it to Word easily, right? So then I copied what we did to Word, and I was like, give me your email. And she gave me her email and I sent it to her. She was like, I would have never like I would have had to get my accounting team. We would have had to like this was multiple meetings we would have need to have. So my example in sharing that use case is like you got to find those quick wins. It's like the snowball effect of using it because I've seen a lot of people use it and they get that first prompt wrong and they're like, "Yep, I knew it was trash. I knew Bart wasn't going to work. This is all just a fad, right?" But think about AI and any of those tools. And I always say it to people think about it being like the smartest, dumbest best friend that you have, right? That person that's really good at Jeopardy that you could just ask them questions and be like, hey, when's Michael Jordan's birthday, right? And they're going to know that. Think of it that way. So that is like, I think one of the biggest challenges, and Kay said this the best, is like, you got to get started. You got to get those rhythms in there.
Mm.
Cool. So the next question I want to have is kind of we talked a little bit about challenges. We talked about kind of some changes that we see. I want to pivot the conversation a little bit more and like, what do you think are some of those growth opportunities that a generative AI can bring to people operations and it bring to employees? Enrique, let's start with you.
Yeah. I think there are two levels that we have to recognize here, right? There's the corporate interface for AI, and there's the one-on-one use of AI, generative AI in this case, via OpenAI and ChatGPT, right? So via corporate AI and these interfaces that actually Vin was talking about before, it is some of the cases that we mentioned, right? It is having your own generative AI chatbot as an assistant, as a chatbot, as a call center. So those are some of the uses that we will see, but I want to focus more on the individual uses, right? Like the individual person. Imagine if you are, a shop of 2 HR people in a 1,700 people company, whatever it is, right? Most likely, if you are in any company that is below 2,000 people, you will have 3-4 people in HR, and you have to write policies, and you have to communicate information, and you have to onboard employees. For this, literally, all you got to do is go and pay $20 a month on ChatGPT, on OpenAI, and you will have a wealth of information and a wealth of support that would cost you thousands of dollars if it was done by a human. It's still imperfect by a human, and much slower and much more expensive, right? Expensively. So at an individual level, for example, I mentioned the case before of me using AI. Literally, I go to ChatGPT every day. And the one case that to me has been the most evident case where I draw value out of it is when I design learning programs. It used to take me hours, and with ChatGPT now I am reducing the amount of hours that I'm putting into this by about 50%, which is a significant amount of time. But imagine if you are a team of 2 people in HR having to write, I don't know, a bereavement policy or a leave policy, or whatever it is, right? A communication about onboarding. You can go to ChatGPT and it won't do it perfectly, but if it saves you 50% of the time that you were taking to do this in the past, that's already a lot of time. It may not be 50%, sometimes it may be 10%, sometimes it may be 90%. I don't know, it depends what you're asking it and how good your questions are. But I would encourage people that even if at a corporate level you still don't have that interface, because that takes time to do the programming and all the technical work behind it, you can still use it at an individual level, whether you are in HR or any, you can go to, if you're just an ordinary person who just wants to ask whatever question, go to the free version of ChatGPT, and if you want to write your cover letter, there you go. So I think in that way, you have to separate both corporate from individual usage, and at an individual level, you can literally use it for everything you want, always knowing that it's going to be imperfect, but it will reduce more. It will give you back a lot of time that you were putting into this manually, whatever you were doing before. So that's my take on this.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Vin, what are your thoughts? Those growth opportunities for employees with generative AI.
That was great. I'm going to go in a different direction, but really staying close to this construct of the generative interface. What it does is it allows access to more than what we've had in the past. And so when it comes to growth, that's accessibility is a huge component of employee growth. If you don't know the opportunities there, you can't take advantage of it. If you don't know how to get to the opportunity, you can't take advantage of it. And that's what holds so many employees back, is it's there, but they don't have access. But with a single interface, something like a generative AI interface, you can get access to information, you can get access to multiple systems. So think about applying for a job. I don't know what internal opportunities are available, but I'm thinking about this new career move, and I can go in and ask, hey, I'm looking to go from a technical individual contributor position to a product manager position. What's available? You can see the jobs. Hey, here's my profile. Here's my resume. What do you see any match or anything that I'm missing? Oh, so here's what I'm missing. Okay. Do we have any internal learning or internal development resources that could help me fill those gaps? Do we have any programs that could help me get access to, higher education, potentially pay for or reimburse? Now, we think about this as this complex thing to do, but if you have a generative interface, you're just doing this in the generative interface, and it literally takes the amount of time I explained it in to go from, I'd like to get a new role, I'd like to move into this new position, and all of this happens. And then behind the scenes, if you have the right software capturing that interaction, you can send part of that. You can send a message to that person's leader saying, hey, this person's expressing an interest in this career path. Don't forget about it. When they're doing your next review, talk to this person about it. Here are the gaps that they identified, and here is the learning path that they've committed to. Now it's not and especially with work from home, a lot of these types of engagements are lost. They're missed. Yeah. But with a generative interface, you can capture all of that. And then using the same generative interface, you can send emails, you can prioritize based on that review session, what the person was asking for. You can do so much. And this is what I think we're missing when it comes to accessibility, when it comes to the tracking, when it comes to all of this. We're missing so much of the opportunity here. And as soon as people touch, like I said, put your hands on it. As soon as people put their hands on this and see something that works, that's when it clicks. And that's what I've been seeing is it's the, that's what it, and you see the light bulb come on. But it's that first engagement. It has to be with something that works.
Yeah, totally. And I love Adele's point on LinkedIn. Adele, right? He said, do you think prompt engineering will be a new role in companies, right? Like that's pretty cool, right? And I think then what you're talking about, that generative interface, right? And like touching it, you gotta like the moment it's like the first toll gate. You touch it, it fails, it's like I'm done, right? But a lot of that kind of comes from basic knowledge of how to be able to use it. And I think like this is where HR professionals can come in and like maybe there's like a quick start guide of like, hey, here's how we use generative AI inside of our organization, right? And give kind of almost like a how-to guide, because in that way that'll increase that knowledge. Vince, super important insight. Kate, what do you think are some of those growth opportunities for employees around generative AI?
Yeah, first I want to just address Vince's point here. I think with predictive capabilities, I think soon enough AI will tell you, hey Vin, you've been asking a lot of questions about this. Have you considered a role as a technical engineer or whatever? And here's how you can do that. So I think pretty soon it's going to be helping us and sending a note to our manager like, hey, maybe you should promote Vin. He's been really researching this stuff. I think so. Going back to AI being a tool, I think it's going to be a tool that sort of makes our jobs a lot more interesting. It's going to take away a lot of the repetitive stuff. Enrique, you mentioned giving us time back. One example I saw at an event I recently went to, it was all about customer experience. And they were talking about how now customer support folks, they get on a call with a person who has a complaint. That call is recorded, a transcript is generated, and call notes are immediately generated and put into a system. Now, imagine how long it used to take people to listen through it, take their notes, try to remember, like, okay, this person said this was the issue. Maybe they didn't really take all the notes as well as they could have. And now Gen AI is here to sort of give us that time back. We don't have to do these repetitive manual tasks anymore. So we can maybe, as customer support, spend more time being human with the other human on the line. So we don't have to stress about all the, BS that we don't want to do. I can't think of one person who wants to do the exact same thing all day long. So I think there's just lots of opportunities for when we get that time back, and AI is just going to make it more fun for us.
Nice. Yeah, getting that time back and upskill. I think for me, quickly, like the growth opportunities that I see for generative AI for employees, I call it the 3 C's: communication, collaboration, and clarity, right? This is where we get outside of the calculations and this low value work that a lot of people are doing, and we start moving to the skill sets that generative AI is never going to be great at, right? Generative AI is never going to be great in communicating complex, complexity and things off to business person. They don't have that relationship, right? So to me, I think it's going to level up our communication skills. It's going to make us better collaborators, and it's going to help us bring more clarity faster to the organization. So that's mine. Hey, I know we're coming up on time, so I got a crystal ball question. We're going to keep this rapid fire, kind of like hot take style. So where do you see is the biggest #1 win in generative AI for people operations over the next 10 years? Ben, let's start with you.
First, I think the biggest surprise is going to be it won't take 10 years. I think a lot of these bigger changes will come in 3 to 5 years. We're seeing faster cycles. What I see coming is dynamic teams. I see teams self-assembling around business problems or around opportunities. And I think that's going to be a huge shift in the way that we work, where parts of the company really dynamically assemble based on talent that's necessary to solve problem or to build, to take advantage of an opportunity. I think generative AI has a lot deeper use cases. And when we combine it, like Kate said, with other types of machine learning, it's going to be really powerful.
Nice. Kate,
I've got
you're
my crystal ball. Hold on, what
you
is
got
it
your
saying?
crystal ball. You're placing a bet right now.
It's saying no more 9 to 5, man. We're going away with a 9 to 5 schedule. That's my prediction. I don't know if 3 to 5 years, 10 to 15 years, definitely I would say less than 10 years. We're not going to have the 40-hour, 50-hour work week. Gen AI is taking our job, and I love that. We don't need to work 40 hours a week. That's my hot take. That's my prediction. I think it's going to be more fun. We're going to have more time to go hiking, running, biking, whatever it is you like doing. Playing guitar, which I should be practicing. But yeah, it's gonna take away the boring parts of our jobs and change up our schedule.
It's gonna optimize the 9 to 5. I love it. That's pretty bold, Kate. I'm gonna take a note of that, and I'm gonna follow up like 3 to 5 years and be like, hey, this optimized my 9 to 5.
Well, I got rid of my 9 to 5 3 years ago, so it's already happening.
Yeah.
Enrique, where we at? Where we at 10 to 15 years, bro?
I will say the same thing that Kate mentioned before, that I'm hoping that we can remove all the freaking boring stuff that we've been cramming our agendas with, which is truly, destroying, people's creativity and passions, just because you gotta go to work and spend, I don't know, 70% of your time doing freaking stuff that is stupid at the end of the day, right? That it can be done by a machine. And I'm hoping, the other thing so that's what I'm hoping with generative AI. And of course, the other thing that I'm hoping is that we don't fill up that time with more bullshit. I'm sorry for saying that, but I'm hoping that we don't fill up that time with more BS, that we really take that time back for, more creativity, more leisure, more building community, more solving, like difficult problems, instead of just, typing away stuff that we shouldn't be typing away all day.
Nice. Yeah, so as Kate and you both said, like taking away and repurposing that time, I'm going to be a little bit wild and say I'm looking forward to the future where AI is going to be more part of, like, one of the things I'm starting to see as a trend is like AI incorporated in wearables, right? So like you're starting to see it in a lot of fitness applications, right? You're starting to see it with like Google Glasses were before, right? You're starting to see it with Bose, what they're doing with their headphones around like augmenting what people are saying and like doing that. So I see where AI not only becomes like a endpoint where it's like a lot of times we're using it on our computer, but it starts to become a part of like it's going to be on us, right? Like it's going to be, we're going to be capturing data with our eyes, we're going to be listening things with our ears. I don't know if we'll get to think like touching side of stuff, that gets to a whole nother element, but I think that is where I see the future of it providing a lot of value. Is it helps complement the actual human experience in a lot of our sensory stuff that we're doing. So that's my bet. But hey, I know we can continue on, but I want to first off thank all the viewers. Thanks everybody for coming to check out this LinkedIn Live. I also want to give a huge congratulations. I was sitting here taking notes from everybody. Thank you to the panel. In one final way, if people want to learn more about you or connect with you, see things that you're doing, if you can give them like a quick insight to where they can follow you, where they connect with you, where they can learn more about you, Vin, let's start with you.
Datascience.vin. Thank you to the French wine industry for naming a domain after me. Everything that I do is available right there, datascience.vin.
Nice.
For me, it is just go to LinkedIn, look me up, or Hacking HR on LinkedIn as well.
Yep, I'm on LinkedIn, on YouTube, all the social media platforms. You can find me by my name or Dedicated.
Nice. And for me, if you want to check me out, I'm all over LinkedIn. All of the socials are just Fresh FP&A. You can follow us all there, and we'll, happy to connect with you. But first off, thanks for everybody. Thank you so much for your time. Just some other things as well too. We'll have a weekly a cadence of these other live sessions that we're going to be doing. So make sure to follow and check us out for all those future updates. Panel, all the viewers, thank you so much for attending. Have a great day and keep it fresh.
Thank
Bye.
you,
Thank
everybody.
you.